Can a method of execution devised in colonial India still satisfy the constitutional guarantee of dignity? The question was presented in front of Supreme Court, and Supreme Court said that yes, it does. So in this particular video, we are going to discuss in detail about what was the issue related to the hanging, which is used as a main method of execution in India, and whether is it constitutional or not. So first of all, to give you background of this particular topic, the challenge was presented on the account of scientific reliability of the method of hanging that is used as execution. The question was presented in the front of two judge bench that was led by Justice Vikram Nath and Justice Sandeep Mehta. Both of these judges have looked at the precedences and also looked at the way how Parliament has formed and formulated a law. Based on those, both have stated that this is a dignified death under Article 21. Now, the petitioners who put this question in front of Supreme Court, they have stated that the scientific reliability, how hanging causes death itself is questioned, because in many earlier cases, for the example study conducted in United Kingdom explains that the prisoner has to go through physical pain and torture. The reason is because hanging causes unpredictable outcome. How? So if the hanging is for long distance, it can cause decapitation, and on the other hand, if the hanging is from short distance, it can cause strangulation. That's why the physical pain and torture is experienced by the prisoners here, the people who are being hanged. So they undergo psychological suffering at the end stage of their life, and that's why it violates the dignified death which is guaranteed under Article 21 of the Constitution. That's why we should explore some other method of execution in India. That was the question. Now if you look at that, how does hanging work? Because if you have looked at the TV series and even movies, you will see that judge, after giving the final verdict, says that to be hanged till death. So what it basically means is that India, we do the long drop method. First of all, the height and weight of the prisoner is calculated, and based on that, the drop is done, that from what height the prisoner has to be dropped. Now the objective of this particular long drop method is to ensure cervical fracture or dislocation. If you look at the structure of the neck here, the spinal cord here, so you can see that just attached to skull is the C1 vertebra called as atlas, and before that, below that, you have C2 vertebra that is called as axis, and then you have the C3 vertebra. The objective of hanging is to ensure that C2 and C3 vertebra, they dislocate, they basically undergo fracture. What is the reason behind it? It is believed that if it undergoes fracture, the person will experience rapid unconsciousness. He will not have to go through the torture or the suffering in the last minute. That's how the method of execution, the hanging as a method of execution, has been defended. Now, what are the scientific concerns? Scientific concerns relate to the 1992 skeletal study where 34 executions were examined in the England. It was found that C2, C3 fracture, though we are theoretically saying it would happen, it is not universal in nature. Actually, only three of the executions showed hangman's fracture. Six of the people here, they died from the asphyxiation as such. That means they died because of suffocation. That means they must have suffered in the last or the end stage, and that is equated with brutality as far as the hanging is concerned. Now, before understanding the entire precedence of hanging in India, what has been the earlier judgment of Supreme Court in this regard, I would want to bring your attention to the fact that Legacy IAS Academy, we are going to soon commence batches. The regular weekday batches are going to start on 7th of September and 3rd of November. Similarly, weekend batches for students who are preparing for examination along with the full-time studies and job is going to commence on 10th of October and 12th of December. Now, the regular weekday batches will run from Monday to Friday between 10 to 5 p.m. and the weekend batches would run on Saturday to Sunday. Now, in this particular course program, we ensure comprehensive coverage of GS paper, and also to ensure that students are able to get support even outside of the classroom. One-to-one mentorship and doubt solving sessions are arranged on a frequent basis. At the same time, to ensure that there is a good level of interaction between faculty and the students, we have a maximum 40 students capacity per batch. Also, to ensure integrated preparation of examination, we have daily mains answer writing practice, and to evaluate your performance test series, we also have made part of this program as such. If you want to know more detail about this course program feature, you can explore through our legacyis.com website. You can also call to the number being displayed here, and also you can download Legacy IAS app, which will help you a great deal in the preparation of UPSC examination. Now, coming to the precedences, right to die with dignity. That was the biggest question which was put forth in the front of Supreme Court. And the precedents can date back to 1983, where Dina versus Union of India case made the headline. In this particular case, the three-judge Supreme Court bench heard the matter, and as the end, it was decided that hanging is not unconstitutional. The hanging as a method of execution in India was upheld by the Supreme Court due to the examination of medical evidences that support it as a non-torturous way of death. Supreme Court clearly stated that even if we explore other alternative method that has been practiced across many countries of the world, whether it is the use of the drugs for killing people, or use of electric chair, or even shooting in many of the cases, shooting by guns for example, none of them clearly indicate that those deaths would be less uncomfortable. That's why medical evidences clearly show that hanging can result in quick and unsufferable death, and that's why Article 21 is not being violated because of this particular Dina versus particular hanging as a method of execution as such. Now we talk about Article 21 and death penalty. So Article 21 of India, which establishes the right to life for people of India, it also says that right to life, the dignity, right to live with dignity, does not only is exercised during the life of the people or the individual, it also extends to the death row prisoners, because they also have right to die with dignity. That's why the Supreme Court has taken a much more broader view of Article 21. Gyan Kaur versus State of Punjab, 1996. This was a case where Supreme Court has stated dignity does not end at gallows. Humane execution is required even for prisoners who are facing death row as such. Now, in the case of Bharatiya Nyaya Suraksha Sanhita, the new law that has been brought by Parliament, what is the provision? So, if you go back to the British era, there was Criminal Procedure Code which was established in year 1861. Based on this Criminal Procedure Code, it has been continued. The hanging as a method of execution has continued, and in the new Bharatiya Nyaya Suraksha Sanhita, section 393, subclause 5 retains this. It also says that in India, death sentences, the prisoners who have been awarded death sentences by judiciary, they would they will experience so just by hanging. They have to be hanged by the neck till death as such. Provision has been retained in Bharatiya Nyaya Suraksha Sanhita. This also is additional way how Supreme Court justify use of hanging as a method of execution. Now, if you look at the Law Commission, the 187th report of Law Commission, the Law Commission was led by Justice M. Jagannath Rao, and it submitted its report in 2003. It establishes that it has recommended that instead of using hanging as a method of execution, we can also explore the possibility of using lethal injection, as the suffering here is less, the pain here is less. Not only that, while taking example of the countries where military law is established, shooting can also be used as an alternative. Report, however, Supreme Court has taken cognizance of this report, and it is stated that the report is just recommendatory in nature. It does not mean that just because Law Commission has given this recommendation, it has to be strictly enforced and followed in India. Now, the question comes that what is the reasoning behind this particular stand of Supreme Court? Supreme Court stated that Dina versus Union of India case that we have discussed, it still remains binding. The reason is because we do not have any sufficient scientific evidences to prove that that the hanging is brutal method of killing, or there can be better alternative of execution as such. There is no proven, there is no such superior alternative compared to hanging. Parliament also has retained it. How? Because we have seen that Bharatiya Nyaya Suraksha Sanhita, we talk about, it has retained hanging. And that's why also we have legislative reaffirmation as far as the Supreme Court, as far as the execution is concerned as such. Now, court has made also important observation. The important observation is that court is saying that it is not shutting door, that there cannot be any more discussion on this particular theme, because this particular this question that whether hanging should be used continuously or not, there is not closed forever, because constitutional law evolves. That is the example of dynamism of the constitutional law. And in the future, if any new scientific evidences emerge, if any new scientific evidences is made possible by the study carried out anywhere across the world, that there can be a better alternative than hanging as far as execution is concerned, then it may reopen the issues. It can take a fresh look at the issue as such. Union of India, also Government of India executive, Supreme Court has stated, can also examine, explore other alternatives that might be better than hanging. So that's all about this particular topic. I hope you understood that why India uses hanging and why Supreme Court has justified it till now. So thank you very much.